Hello and welcome to The Blow Show. Today is a very special episode. I'm just talking about a concert that I saw yesterday and I didn't like it.
You're listening to The Blow Show, the podcast experience with guests from all over the world.
So, hello my friends. Usually I don't do rants on my channel, but today I feel I have to do it because yesterday I was to the concert of my favorite artist or musicians ever. I'm talking about Pat Metheny. And for the first time, I went there with my wife, so I didn't like it. The problem is the following. First of all, let me talk about my position and where I come from. So I'm 46 years old, and I've been following Pat Metheny since I was 14 or 15. And during my whole life, I have missed only 2 or 3 concerts. So I'm really into it. And on my wedding, when my wife came down the aisle, I had first circle instead of the nuptial. So I'm really a fan. So where's the problem? The concept of the Side Eye Tour is very noble. So Pat Metheny wants to give to new musicians the possibility that he had when he was young. So for people that don't know the story, when Pat Metheny was young, a very young musician, he had the possibility to play with big musicians like Gary Burton. And so he grew with those musicians. And so now he wants to give back to the community and give to those new musicians the possibility to grow and to make experience with him. And this is a very noble and a very nice thing, and I support it. But in this concept, there's a little catch. And so let's try to analyze what happened yesterday or what's happening now in this tour. He's touring with a trio. We have a drummer, Joe Dyson, who is a nice guy. He plays very well. And of course, we know we tend to compare with John Vertigo, with Antonio Sanchez. By the way, Antonio Sanchez, I love you. And of course, it's not the same, but I get it. He's young, he will grow. It's okay. And we don't have to always cry about what happened yesterday. We accept it and it's okay. But then we go on the keyboard. And I think here is where the problem begins. So as we said, we have a trio. The trio is composed by Pat Metheny on guitar, Joe Dyson on drum, and then there's Chris Fishman on piano or keyboard. And he has substituted James Francis, who was present on who recorded the album. The problem is that Chris Fishman, besides being the keyboard or the piano player, is also the bass player. And here's where everything gets broken for me. So what happens? That Chris Fishman has to play the bass line. So you have the songs of Pat Metheny, and then you have the guy that's making it dun, 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 dun. And also you have the sampler. And I think that this in some way limits this guy, the expressivity or the expression possibilities of this guy, because he has to do 2 things. And also my impression was that he played inside the comfort zone. So he didn't have this breath, this fantasy. I mean, of course, I try to compare with Lyle Mays or the other guys. It's not the same, and I get it. But the problem is that this guy has to do 2 jobs. And so he's basically constrained in this crazy thing. So why on hell, Pat Metheny, don't you get a bass player? I mean, you have played with the best bass players in the world. You had Jaco Pastorius, you had Richard Bona, you had Steve Rodby. I mean, when I think Steve Rodby, the solo on How Insensitive, I still get goosebumps like 25 years later. And now you come with the karaoke bass, Staccato karaoke bass. Please don't do it. Don't do it. There's no reason to do it. So as soon as you can, take a person, a bass player, and put it on stage. I mean, if you want to nurture the new generation of musicians, for sure there's some bass player in the United States that has talent and deserves to be on stage with you. Why don't you spend some money for some vocalists? I mean, of course, we tend to remember Pedro Aznar, to Mark Ledford. We had the percussionists like Nana Vasconcelos. I get it. Those guys are not available anymore. But for sure, there might be some talented guy, some talented vocalist, some talented guy that can play the trumpet or multi-instrumentalist or percussionist. And, because the song of the Pat Metheny group sound better when you have vocalists, when you have the soundscape. It's not necessary to save money and to put the sample bass player. Come on, man. Do it for us. Because remember, I respect the fact that you are an artist. You have done, like say, 50 years of career. You can do whatever you want. This is your right. But also think about us. We are the fans. We have been following you for years, for decades. And we deserve to have a little bit of satisfaction. So, I mean, now, so this year, it's okay, you've done it. But my idea or my suggestion will be that you make like a sort of greatest hits tour where you take the whole set of musicians and you make something great again, like Imaginary Day tour, Speaking of Now tour. Those were moments when you went to the concert and you had goosebumps the whole time. You get tears of the emotion, how beautiful it is. And even like 30 years later, if you speak to people that have been to those concerts, 30 years later, they still remember it as it was yesterday, because this was music in the highest form. And what you did yesterday was okay. But Pat Metheny doesn't deserve to make okay thing. You have to do something great. So I hope that this message reaches my favorite guitarists, my favorite musicians of all time, and I hope really that I will have the chance to see this kind of concert, to go there with my kids, so at least they experience once that there is this kind of music. Otherwise, the next best thing will be like going to the concert of Maluma, which is a nice guy. I respect him, I love him, but please don't do this to me, okay? Bye-bye, take care, ciao.
Only on the Blow Show, so here